I'm the woman whose husband secretly got a vasectomy and filed for divorce within the same month, and everyone who hears about it assumes he's the villain. They're wrong about who manipulated whom. What they don't know is I spent 3 years casually joking about trading him in for an upgrade once we had kids, and I meant every word. People keep telling me I'm the victim here. My mother thinks I dodged a bullet. My best friend wants to key his car. But the bullet I dodged was one I loaded myself, and the damage to his car would be nothing compared to what I did to his sense of self-worth. The truth is, I destroyed a good man because I thought I was too smart to get caught, and the consequences of that arrogance have cost me everything I actually wanted. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened, including the parts that make me look worse than you're already imagining. Because there's one detail everyone's missing, one thing I did that even my closest friends don't know about, and once you hear it, you'll understand why the divorce papers were actually mercy. We met at a friend's barbecue 5 years ago. Marcus was the guy who brought homemade potato salad and actually knew everyone's names by the end of the night. Not the type I usually dated. My ex before him drove a BMW and talked about his stock portfolio on our first date. Marcus drove a 10-year-old Honda and talked about the community garden he volunteered at on weekends. I almost didn't give him my number, but he texted me a photo the next day of a sunflower he'd planted, said it reminded him of my dress. It was corny and sweet, and I was 26 and tired of guys who negged me at bars. So I said yes to coffee. He was a third-grade teacher, made $42,000 a year. Lived in a one-bedroom apartment with furniture from IKEA and his grandmother. He was also the kindest person I'd ever met, which I mistook for weakness. I can see that now. Back then I saw potential. I worked in marketing for a tech startup, made twice his salary and had plans, big plans, corner office plans, penthouse apartment plans, plans that required a certain kind of life partner, and Marcus wasn't exactly that. But he was safe and he worshipped me, and I convinced myself that was enough for now. We got engaged after 2 years. I picked out the ring because his taste was too traditional. I planned the wedding because he didn't care about those details. I made most of the decisions in our relationship because he just wanted me to be happy. Everyone said how lucky I was to have someone so agreeable. I said it too, but what I meant was how convenient. The jokes started small, innocent even. We'd be at dinner with friends and someone would ask about kids, and I'd laugh and say, well, first I need to see if this one's worth keeping around. Everyone would laugh. Marcus would laugh too, but his smile never quite reached his eyes. I noticed. I just didn't care enough to stop. Then one night, about 6 months after our wedding, my college roommate Jessica got engaged to a neurosurgeon. Posted photos of her massive ring and her fiancé's beach house on Instagram. I spent an hour scrolling through her perfect life, then walked into the living room where Marcus was grading papers at our tiny dining table. You know, I said, Jessica's fiancé is taking her to Bali for Christmas. Marcus looked up, smiled. That's nice, where do you want to go? We can't afford Bali, I said. We can't afford anything. His smile faded. I thought we were saving for a house. We've been saving for 2 years and have barely enough for a down payment in the worst neighborhood. I watched something shift in his expression. Not anger, something worse. Resignation, like he'd been expecting this conversation and had already accepted defeat before it started. That's when I should have recognized what I was doing. That's when I should have stopped. Instead, I made my first real mistake. I started calculating what my life would look like in 5 years if nothing changed. Same apartment, same budget, same Marcus with his modest salary and his humble dreams. And I convinced myself I deserved more, not better, more. The upgrade jokes became a running bit. At his school's fundraiser, I told his principal, I'm just using him for practice before I find a real husband. At my company holiday party, I introduced him to my CEO and said, this is my starter husband. Everyone laughed. Some people looked uncomfortable, but they still laughed. Marcus stopped laughing. But here's what I noticed: he also stopped arguing with me. Stopped pushing back on my plans. Stopped suggesting things he wanted to do. He became even more agreeable, more accommodating, more invisible. And I interpreted that as winning. I thought I'd trained him. I thought I'd established the power dynamic I needed. What I'd actually done was break something fundamental, but I was too self-absorbed to see it. We'd been married for 1.5 years when I started seriously thinking about having kids. Not because I wanted to be a mother necessarily. Because all my friends were getting pregnant and I was falling behind in the life milestone competition. Plus, I'd read articles about how much harder it gets after 35 and I was 29. The window was closing. I brought it up casually one Sunday morning. I think we should start trying soon. Marcus was doing dishes. He stopped, hands in the soapy water. For a baby? No, for a puppy. Yes, a baby. I thought we were waiting until we bought a house. We can do both, I said, scrolling through my phone. Plenty of people have bobbies in apartments. Okay, he said quietly, if that's what you want. If that's what you want, not if that's what we want. I remember noticing the phrasing and feeling pleased that he knew his place. I told my mother we were trying. She was thrilled. Sent me links to prenatal vitamins and parenting books. I posted a subtle hint on Instagram, one of those next chapter photos that my friends would understand. Got 100 likes and 20 comments of congratulations. Then at brunch with my work friends, 3 mimosas in, someone asked if Marcus was excited about becoming a dad. Oh, he's thrilled to be of service, I said. Though honestly, once I've got the kids I need, I'll probably upgrade to a husband with better earning potential. A teacher's salary isn't going to cut it for the lifestyle I want for my family. They laughed. But my friend Rachel, who'd always been a bit too honest, didn't. You're joking, right? I mean, half joking, I said. Marcus is a great guy, but he's not exactly husband material long-term, more like stepping stone material. Rachel's face did something complicated. Does he know you feel this way? He knows I make jokes, he's fine with it, he knows his role. The conversation moved on, but Rachel kept looking at me like she was seeing me for the first time. I felt a flicker of something, defensiveness maybe, but I washed it down with another mimosa and ignored it. Here's the thing nobody tells you about being cruel: it's incremental. You don't wake up one day and decide to destroy someone. You just keep pushing boundaries, testing limits, seeing how much you can get away with. And when there are no consequences, you push further. Marcus never fought back. Never told me I was being horrible. Never gave me the confrontation that might have shocked me into self-awareness. He just absorbed everything I said and did, like a sponge soaking up poison, and I mistook his silence for acceptance. 3 months into trying for a baby, I wasn't pregnant yet. I was tracking my cycle obsessively, taking ovulation tests, timing everything perfectly. It should have happened by then. I started researching fertility clinics. Meanwhile, Marcus became even quieter. He'd come home from work, make dinner without being asked, and disappear into the bedroom to read. We barely talked. We had scheduled sex based on my fertility app. The intimacy we'd had in the beginning, the sweetness that had made me give him a chance, was completely gone. I blamed him for that too. One night I came home late from a work event and found him sitting in the dark living room just staring at nothing. You okay? I asked, not really caring. I've been thinking, he said. About the future. Great, me too. I want to talk about preschools. There's a waiting list for the good ones and we need to get on it now. I mean our future, he said, you and me. Something in his tone made me actually look at him. What about it? He was quiet for a long moment. Do you even like me anymore? The question hung in the air. I should have said yes immediately. Should have reassured him even if I had to lie. But I was annoyed that he was making me deal with his feelings when I had real things to worry about. Of course I do, I said impatiently. Why would you ask that? The things you say about me to your friends, to my colleagues about upgrading. Those are jokes, Marcus. Learn to take a joke. They don't feel like jokes. Well, they are. Stop being so sensitive. I walked past him toward the bedroom. I'm exhausted. We can talk about this another time. We never did talk about it. And that conversation, that moment when he tried to tell me I was hurting him, was my last chance to fix things. I walked right past it. 2 weeks later, I missed my period. I took 4 pregnancy tests in a row, each one negative. I made an appointment with my doctor, convinced something was wrong with me. The appointment was scheduled for the following month. I was so focused on my potential fertility issues that I completely missed what was happening with Marcus. He'd stopped initiating any conversation, stopped making plans for weekends, started going to the gym before work and staying at school later and later. When I noticed, I figured he was finally developing some ambition. Maybe my comments about his salary had motivated him to pursue administration or something. I was almost proud. At a dinner party at my friend's house, I was talking to a group of women about my fertility concerns. Marcus was across the room talking to the husbands. I saw him look over at me a few times, but I was too engaged in my conversation to pay attention. We've been trying for months, I was saying. I'm starting to think there might be a problem. Have you had Marcus tested? Someone asked. Sometimes it's the guy. God, I hope not, I said. That's all I need, a husband who can't even get that right. Though honestly, if he's shooting blanks, that's just one more reason to trade up. I need someone who can actually deliver in all departments, you know? The women laughed, but it was that uncomfortable laughter that should have warned me I'd crossed a line. I was too buzzed to care. What I didn't know was that Marcus had heard every word. He told me this later in the lawyer's office. He'd walked over to ask if I wanted another drink, arrived just in time to hear me discuss his potential fertility issues and frame them as another failure in his long list of inadequacies. He turned around and walked out of the party without saying goodbye to anyone. Just left me there. I didn't even notice until I was ready to leave an hour later. When I got home, he was in bed facing the wall. I figured he was sulking about something and ignored it. Climbed into bed and went to sleep, annoyed that he was being dramatic. The next morning, he was already gone when I woke up. Left a note saying he had an early meeting. I didn't question it. Didn't think anything was wrong. This went on for 2 weeks. Him avoiding me barely noticing because I was consumed with work and my fertility anxiety and planning for a future that I didn't realize was already dead. Then one Saturday he said he needed to run errands. Was gone for 4 hours, came back with bags from the grocery store and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Everything okay? I asked, more out of obligation than concern. Perfect, he said. Everything's perfect. I didn't press. Didn't ask questions, I was just relieved he seemed less moody. That night we had sex. My app said I was ovulating. Afterward he held me, which was unusual. He'd stopped doing that months ago. I love you, he whispered into my hair. Love you too, I said automatically, already half asleep, not meaning it at all. What I didn't know was that he'd spent those 4 hours at a urologist's office getting a vasectomy. Outpatient procedure, local anesthetic, 15 minutes total. He'd paid in cash so I wouldn't see the charge on our joint account. Taken pain medications secretly for the next few days, hiding his discomfort. While I was timing our intercourse to my fertility window, he was healing from a surgery specifically designed to ensure I'd never get pregnant. And he didn't tell me. Just let me keep trying, keep hopping, keep tracking my cycle obsessively. But I still didn't know that part. Not yet. A month passed. Still not pregnant. I was spiraling, making appointments with fertility specialists, researching IVF costs. Marcus said nothing, just listened to me rant about my broken body and nodded sympathetically. I should have noticed how calm he was, how he didn't seem worried at all about our failure to conceive. But I was so inside my own head that I missed every single red flag. Then came the party that changed everything. My company's 5th anniversary celebration. Open bar, fancy venue, all our investors and clients. I was networking aggressively, working the room, drinking champagne. Marcus was my +1, standing quietly beside me while I talked to important people. My CEO, David, was there with his wife. They just had their 2nd kid. Beautiful family, perfect life, everything I wanted. I made sure to spend time talking to them, positioning myself as indispensable. When are you two going to join the parent club? David asked, gesturing to Marcus and me. We're working on it, I said, though honestly I'm not sure Marcus is up to the task, might need to upgrade to premium genetics. I meant it as a joke. The kind of joke I'd been making for 3 years, but I was drunk and it came out meaner than usual. David's wife looked uncomfortable. David himself looked confused. Marcus's hand tightened on his drink. Excuse me, he said quietly and walked away. I didn't follow him, didn't apologize. Just kept networking, kept drinking, kept being the ambitious, ruthless person I'd convinced myself I needed to be to succeed. When we got home that night, Marcus went straight to the bedroom. I stumbled in an hour later, drunk and exhausted. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, still dressed, holding his phone. We need to talk, he said. Can it wait? I'm really tired. No, he said, it can't. Something in his voice cut through my alcohol fog. I looked at him properly for the first time in months. He looked different, resolved, like he'd made a decision and was finally at peace. I want a divorce, he said. I laughed, actually laughed. Don't be ridiculous, you're upset about tonight. I'm sorry if I embarrassed you, okay? It was just a joke. It's always just a joke, he said. Except it's not. You've spent 3 years telling me and everyone we know that I'm not good enough for you, that you're planning to leave me. That I'm a placeholder until you find someone better, and I'm done pretending. That doesn't destroy me. Marcus, you're being dramatic. I don't actually mean those things. Yes, you do, he said. You mean every word. You've been planning your exit strategy since before we got married. You've just been waiting for the right time. My heart started racing. This wasn't how this was supposed to go. Marcus didn't push back. Marcus didn't leave. Marcus was the safe option, the one who'd always be there when I needed him. I'm not planning to leave you, I said, which was technically true. I was planning to leave him eventually, but not now, not before I got what I needed first. You told my principal I was practice, he said. You told your CEO you were waiting to upgrade. You told your friends at that dinner party 2 weeks ago that if I'm infertile, that's just another reason to trade me in. I heard you, by the way. I was standing right there. I felt my face flush. You're taking things out of context. No, he said. I'm finally seeing things in full context. You don't love me. You've never loved me. You love the idea of being married, love having someone to show up to events with, love the security. But you don't love me, and I can't do this anymore. So what, you're just going to throw away 3 years of marriage because I make some inappropriate jokes? He looked at me with something close to pity. I'm leaving because staying is killing me. Every day I wake up and remember that my wife thinks I'm not good enough, that she's planning to replace me, that the person I love most in the world sees me as disposable, and I can't live like that anymore. I started to panic, real panic, because I hadn't planned for this. I was supposed to be the one who left, not him. I was supposed to be in control. What about kids? I said desperately. We're trying for kids. You can't leave now. Something flickered across his face. About that. And that's when he told me about the vasectomy. Said he'd gotten it 6 weeks ago. Said he did it because he realized he couldn't bring a child into a marriage where one parent openly planned to abandon them. Said he knew it was the only way to protect himself from being trapped by me forever. While I was trying to get pregnant, you were deliberately sabotaging it. My voice was shrill. What the fuck is wrong with you? What's wrong with me? He stood up. I'm not the one who's been psychologically torturing their partner for 3 years. I'm not the one who treats their spouse like a business transaction. I'm the one who finally found the courage to escape. You can't do this. You can't just get a vasectomy without telling me. That's That's reproductive coercion or something. Like what you were planning, he said quietly. You were going to get pregnant and then leave me once you had the kids you needed. You said it yourself multiple times. You were going to baby trap me and then upgrade. At least I had the decency to prevent that instead of following through. He was right. I had been planning exactly that. Not consciously maybe, but it was there in every joke, every comment. Get pregnant, have one or maybe two kids, then leave when they were old enough that custody wouldn't be a nightmare. Find someone with money, someone successful, someone who could give me the life I actually wanted. Use Marcus for the parts of life building that required a partner, then discard him when he'd served his purpose. But hearing him say it out loud made me realize how monstrous it sounded. That's not. I couldn't finish the sentence because we both knew it was true. I've already filed the papers, he said. You'll be served on Monday. I'm staying at my brother's. I'll come get my things next week when you're at work. Marcus, wait, please, we can fix this. No, he said, we can't. Because you don't think there's anything to fix. You think I'm overreacting. You think I'm being too sensitive. You'll apologize just enough to make me stay, and then in 6 months or a year it'll start again, and I won't survive it. He walked out, just left, and I stood there in my designer dress, drunk and panicking, realizing I'd miscalculated everything. The divorce papers arrived on Monday as promised. I called him, texted, emailed. He didn't respond. His brother told me to communicate through lawyers only. I told my mother what happened, left out the part about my jokes, about my plans, about everything I'd said and done. Made it sound like Marcus had a breakdown, got a secret vasectomy, and abandoned me out of nowhere. She was furious on my behalf, called him names, told me I was better off, said any man who'd do something like that wasn't worth keeping. I told my friends the same story. They rallied around me. Planned a girls' night to trash talk him, posted vague supportive things on my Instagram. Everyone was on my side except Rachel. She came over one night a week after Marcus left, brought wine, sat me down on the couch. I need to ask you something, she said, and I need you to be honest. Okay, did you really not see this coming? I started to say no, but something in her face stopped me. Think about it, she said. Think about the things you've said about him, the jokes you've made. In front of him, in front of his friends, in front of strangers. And tell me honestly, if someone treated you like that, would you stay? I opened my mouth to defend myself, closed it, tried again, nothing came out. I've been your friend for 10 years, Rachel said. And I love you, but the way you talked about Marcus made me uncomfortable every single time. And I said nothing because I didn't want to lose our friendship, but I should have said something. I should have told you that you were being cruel. It was just jokes, I whispered. No, she said firmly. It wasn't. Jokes are funny. What you did was systematically tear down your husband's sense of self-worth while planning to use him for genetic material and then discard him. That's not a joke, that's abuse. The word hung between us. Abuse. I never thought of it that way. Couldn't think of it that way because I wasn't an abuser. I was ambitious, sure, maybe a little insensitive. But not abusive. You don't understand, I said. I wasn't actually going to leave him, not really. Yes, you were, Rachel said. You told me so yourself multiple times. You said he was a stepping stone, starter husband, practice round. You said those words. I had said those words. I remembered saying them, remembered meaning them, remembered the way it felt powerful to have a plan, to be in control. The vasectomy was wrong, Rachel continued. I'm not defending that. Can you honestly say you're surprised he felt he had to protect himself from you? I started crying. Not elegant tears, ugly, snotty, hyperventilating sobs, because she was right. Every word she said was right, and I couldn't hide from it anymore. I don't know how to fix this, I said. I don't think you can, Rachel said gently. I think you destroyed something that can't be repaired. And I think the kindest thing you can do is let him go and figure out why you thought any of this was okay. She left shortly after. I sat alone in the apartment Marcus and I had shared, surrounded by evidence of the life I'd systematically demolished, and tried to figure out who I'd become. But even then I wasn't ready to take full responsibility. I kept telling myself it was a misunderstanding, that I'd been misinterpreted, that if I could just explain myself properly, everyone would see that I wasn't the villain. I hired a lawyer, an aggressive one who specialized in hostile divorces. Told him I wanted to fight the divorce, wanted Marcus to pay for what he'd done. The vasectomy was reproductive coercion, I said. He'd sabotaged my plans to have children. Surely that was grounds for something. My lawyer looked at me with barely disguised contempt. Did you tell him you were trying to get pregnant? Yes, of course, we were actively trying. And did he agree to try? Well, yes, but then he's allowed to change his mind about his own body, the lawyer said. The vasectomy is legal. Ethically questionable perhaps, but legal. Do you have any evidence of actual grounds for a fault divorce? He left me, I said weakly. No fault state, he said. Doesn't matter who left. What matters is asset division and whether there are any complicating factors. Any joint debt, shared property? No, we rent, don't own anything major together. Then this is straightforward. I'd advise you to settle. Fighting it will cost you more in legal fees than you'd gain. I didn't hire him, went to 3 more lawyers. They all said the same thing. Some were nicer about it, but the message was clear: I had no case. Marcus was entitled to leave, and the vasectomy, while deceptive, wasn't illegal. The truth I wasn't telling anyone, not even my lawyers, was that I'd found something.